on the country's workforce, the opportunities and the hurdles in securing employment, both locally and abroad. The numbers show that every year, over 1 million young people enter the labor market, eager to find their niche. But the question remains, is the market able to absorb and utilize their skills, both in the formal and informal sector, as quickly as they're being churned out? To answer these questions on the state of the country's labor market, we're joined by none other than the Labor and Skills Development Principal Secretary, Shadrack Mwadime. Good evening, I'm Regina Manyara, and this is indeed The Shift. Thank you very much for making time.
Thank you for having me.
So over the last few days, we have been seeing Kenyans, turn up for the government job recruitment exercise here in Nairobi, Machakos, and now also in parts of Rift Valley. What are the key highlights so far?
Okay, so the object is to ensure we bring information to the grassroots level, owing to the fact that a number of Kenyans have been complaining that they've been conned of their money by some recruitment agencies which unfortunately are not registered, and therefore we are going down mashinani to the grassroots level to interact with Kenyans at that particular level and to appraise them concerning the job opportunities that are available as it is now. Most of these job opportunities have been uploaded in the NIMS, that's the National Employment Authority Integrated Management System. However, it is critical for us as government to go and interact with Kenyans at that particular level, rather than assuming that they will be able to access this information and even apply for this job. So we are actually going down with the private recruitment agencies to interact with Kenyans at that level.
To create awareness. Yes. And are there any surprises, given there's been a lot of mistrust, to government projects, and as you've mentioned, Kenyans have been conned before? Any surprises so far? Yeah,
of course. There are those who are very skeptical about us, and they keep on asking whether this is true. They keep on asking the recruitment agencies whether it's true that government is, in actual sense, securing job opportunities for them abroad. So it's expected, owing to the fact that, they have been conned before.
And we want to know tonight if, what Kenyans think, actually, in real time. And the big question tonight, as we have it on your screen, is that what is your view on the government's labor export strategy as the question, or rather the solution to unemployment? What is your view on government's labor export strategy as a solution to unemployment? Get on X. Our X handle is at KBC Channel 1. Mine is at Ray Manyara. #The Shift. Now let us hear from what Kenyans from across the country had to say about the ongoing exercise.
With many Kenyans seeking jobs online, the first phase of the recruitment process has successfully ended in lower eastern counties of Machakos, Makueni, and Kitui, with the government urging Kenyans to take up the opportunity. But what is the government doing to streamline the agencies? Join me as I engage with Kenyans.
In the short run, it will work. However, it's a temporary solution. In the long run, as an economist, I see that it will have some effects whereby we'll be exporting the most brilliant, the most energetic labor outside the country. And therefore, as a country, we will continue being a consuming nation than a producing nation.
Tuko sure ile nchi zenye tunaambiwa tutaenda kama our security itakuwa guaranteed. Sasa tuko nataka kujua kama tunaweza pata kazi za Kenya.
Wakaaji wa Baringo wengi, hata wanafunzi wa technical wako hapa ni wengi sana. Wale walimalizia grade 8, class 8, wale walimalizia form 2, wale walimalizia form 4. Wote wako hapa wakitafuta shughuli za skills. And Your Excellency, the last thing that I want to say, in as much as we are exporting labor to other countries, international labor, why can't we as a country also create industries, especially processing industries, so that we can utilize these markets, this labor that we have in this country? Especially here in Baringo, we have a lot of fruits. We can have industries. How many people will be employed?
There is this story about unapata kenye unafunzwa shule, yes, maybe ina make sense, but unapata resources hakuna, so hai make sense sana, like haiko useful. Then ikifika place ya kuingia kwa ground, nothing, like kenye kwa shule kenye kwa ground vitu mbili tofauti, hadi unakaa unashangaa fees ilichomwa ama mngenunua tu ng'ombe mkule sikukuu, I don't know.
While the government has made strides in skill development, there is still room for improvement. For example, organizing workshops that invite organizations to educate our youth, like capacity building, can bridge this skills gap. Additionally, incentivizing Kenyan companies to offer apprenticeship is vital.
Mimi kitu nilikuwa naona tu waje serikali saidia vijana. Juu tuko huko nyumbani tuko wengi sana vijana hatuna job. Story nasikia ati huko Arabini na maisha huko hivyo kuna venye watu wanafanywa mbaya. Ningeomba bado serikali yetu bado iangalie hizo yenyewe, iangalie ijue venye itatusaidia pale pia pale juu kuna venye napata kuna haribika.
We have to address the issue of the strikes, and actually that's what also we are trying to address. You know, we have Kenya is a reactive country in a manner that they concentrate to the incident. What we have supposed to do is that we have to create a safety management system which address the underlying factors. If you address the underlying factors, let's say now like a workplace should have what we call a dispute resolution committee or a safety committee which deal with all internal issues. Once we have a good system of work where people are working, problem will be solved before they occur, and that's the best way to go.
Now, that's just a sample of what Kenyans have to say about the ongoing exercise there, and is going to set the tone of this conversation. So, as government, you have set a target of linking 1 million youth to employers annually. So, so far, how many have been placed this year, and how realistic is this goal?
We've placed about 108,000 so far this year. The numbers are on the increase. There is no question about it, because we are signing bilateral labor agreements with the destination countries, particularly European countries. As you're well aware, we signed a bilateral labor agreement with Germany recently. We have an MOU with Austria, and therefore we are pushing for more bilateral labor agreements because we want labor migration. Although we are shy in calling it labor migration, we want to call it labor mobility. You know, we want labor mobility to take place in a very organized and structured way, because that is the only way we are going to ensure the rights of Kenyans working out there are guaranteed.
Now, Bwana P.S., you've mentioned the labor agreements that we have in Germany. Just recently, we saw the president down in Berlin, and this is where this was actually signed. But also, there were issues that were raised by Kenyans who are already in Berlin in regard to them not being able to have dual citizenship, so to speak, that they had to forfeit, property so that they can actually invest there. How are you tackling such issues when it comes to this, policy issue, when it comes to labor migration, as they've called it?
Yeah, those are the demands of the destination countries. You can only retain one citizenship. But our constitution allows for dual citizenship. Yes. So as we keep on negotiating with these destination countries, where the labor market is, obviously they will be able to possibly change their legal frameworks, their constitutions to allow for that. But our object is not for Kenyans to migrate to Europe or these other countries permanently. That is not our object. Our object is for them to go for short-term contracts, 3 years, possibly maximum 5 years. Then they come back home to invest. So we're also not interested so much in Kenyans acquiring citizenship, yes, in these countries, because we need them back home. I heard one of the people who raised, issues concerning labor migration talk of brain drain, an economist who talked of brain drain.
Actually, you picked that from a brain, because that's one of the things, because now we're unpacking what has been raised.
Absolutely.
Are you concerned about the possible brain drain? Because we're seeing some of the jobs that are gaining traction out there, one of them is nursing. Yet we have nurses back home who are decrying, poor working conditions, poor pay and such. Brain drain. How are you Are you worried about it?
No, I'm not worried about it at all. That's an issue that I've engaged even the world of academia, academicians, you know, and this is my thinking, and I'm absolutely right. Number one, there is no way you can tell a young person who is well skilled that one has to wait until the economy expands before you can be absorbed into formal employment. There is no way you can tell that person, you know, to wait. These are people who want to establish their families, you know. These are people who want to develop. These are people who want to make savings and also invest in the long run. They want to put up their houses, you know. Generally, the expectations of any human being. So you can't tell them to wait until such a period of time that the economy expands.
Okay.
Number two, you must realize that the other side of the coin, when you're talking of brain drain, you know, the flip side is actually brain gain, and that is what we are going for. We want them to go and get know-how that they will be able to transfer back home, to be able to exploit the resources that we have to the maximum and expand our economy.
Now, Bwana PS, that is good. It's in the long run. But then the question is the labor program just limited to casual and semi-skilled laborers or professionals?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because if we keep on sending semi-skilled labor abroad, we'll not be able to get the remittances that we need for our country, you know? So in actual sense, we are sending skilled labor. But skilled labor to go and find technology as it obtains currently in those countries. And there are models that we can emulate. There are models of countries that have undertaken the same program and succeeded in converting the economies into first world economies. I have South Korea in mind. 30 years ago, South Korea sent the young people to Japan, engineers and what have you, to Saudi Arabia and Germany. They were able to acquire not only know-how, but experience that they brought back home with the savings that they were able to make and whatever government was able to inject also into industrial expansion. And that is the reason why South Korea can now compete with Japan in terms of the products that Japan produces, be it electronic gadgets, the smartphones that we have, be it vehicles. Japan produces Toyotas. South Korea, as it is now, produces Hyundais that are of the same quality and standard as the Toyota models.
Looking at the latest report from the Ministry of Labour, it indicates that what is gaining traction out there is now seeing disc jockeys and such. And the question is, what about professional skills? Let me look at the engineers right now. Local engineers can still not practice abroad. Why? Because we have not ratified the Washington Accord. So what are you doing to ensure that even professionals, doctors alike, as well as engineers, can also get these job opportunities?
Okay, so the strategy for that is recognition of certificates. We have to be very aggressive on that so that we can share the curriculum that we have for our engineers and any other profession. You know, we can share with the countries of destination. We can even allow them to come and appraise us on how we can change curriculum to fit into their expectations, because that is very critical. So that that young person who graduates at the end of 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, will be sure that he or she will gain employment immediately after. And that is not with reference to the international labor market alone, even the local market. We have to ensure that our young people are as employable as possible.
Now, you've said that we have to be market ready if we're going to, get, foreign placement. So what specific skills are Kenyans, do Kenyans need to secure these jobs abroad? Because I'm also looking at the issue of the language barrier. Is the government also training these youth who are seeking those jobs abroad on, basic skills like communication, language and such? How are you handling that?
First of all, you have to appreciate that Kenyans have a very swift tongue. They are talented when it comes to foreign languages. Go to Coast Province. You'll find a number of young people who speak foreign languages just by interacting with tourists, even without going to language schools. But nevertheless, this is what we are doing as government. We have given instructions, particularly to our TVETs, to offer foreign languages as part of their curriculum, so that by the time you are graduating, you are ready for the German market. If you've learned German, you are ready for the Italian market. You are ready for whichever market that is available out there. And as I said, it's not difficult for Kenyans to learn a foreign language. An average Kenyan speaks 3 languages: English, Swahili, and their mother tongue. So it's not difficult really to learn another language.
So if I were to apply, or rather get into this particular program, what will be required of me?
Yes, so language is critical. There's no question about it. But the skills that are demanded there is equally as critical. And we are conducting a survey. That is very, very important so that we get to know the kind of jobs that are open in the international labor market, so that we train at the supply level. We train our young people to undertake courses. You know, we give them an opportunity to undertake courses that will guarantee them employment at the end of their course. Now, some of these courses that we have put our focus on is not only in the medical field, by the way, doctors and nurses, home care and what have you, but also IT, because Kenyans are very good when it comes to IT. You know, they are excellent. In fact, Germany has put an exemption as of now, you know, for those young people who are going to work in the IT industry. Language will not be a condition as of now, but gradually with time, of course, it will have
now,
to be
are you
reviewed.
concerned about such opportunities there, being accessible to those who do not have the right qualifications? Because we have seen this before. How are you ensuring that corruption does not infiltrate this particular process that you're currently under?
We are trying to be as transparent as possible in terms of the requirements that these young people need. Our private recruitment agencies have performed extremely well of late in picking those who have the right qualifications to go for these jobs, and they have been transparent. Most of the job orders are actually uploaded in the NIMS, the National Employment Integrated Management System. So I would wish to also applaud our private recruitment agencies as to what they have done of late. And you have realized even the cases that we are getting, before concerning rogue private recruitment agencies is a thing of the past.
So are you vetting these agencies? Are you confirming that they have been vetted before they actually, on board?
Yes. And they are not only vetted administratively by the National Employment Authority, they are actually vetted by a committee that is comprised of a senior administrator from my ministry, but all the security agencies are also represented, and we also have foreign affairs as part of the membership of this vetting committee.
So now, before we get to hear what Kenyans have to say, if they are on board with this particular, strategy, there have been, disturbing reports, Kenyans being abused abroad. And how can you assure families and the public that their loved ones will be safe and treated fairly in foreign countries?
It's extremely unfortunate what has been happening over the years, but we want this to be a thing of the past with the strategies that we are putting in place as it is currently. And this is what we are doing. Before this young Kenyan moves to work in these foreign countries, we conduct pre-departure training. We have to appraise them concerning the culture that they will meet there, the expectations also of their employers, so that they're well aware concerning that which will be desired of them before they even leave. That is number one. But secondly, we have labor attaches whose responsibility is basically to safeguard the interests of these Kenyans abroad. So these labor attaches that we are deploying abroad will know the location as to where this Kenyan is, and in case one gets into a wanting situation, first of all, we have a toll-free number that they can call. They can reach out to the National Employment Authority 24/7, but they can also reach out to our embassy and get immediate assistance.
Now that you've mentioned our embassies, do you believe that the current regulations, are sufficient to protect Kenyans abroad from exploitation, human trafficking and other abuses?
Yes, I was on it. The other way is to ensure that they migrate abroad in a structured way, as I well put it, because some of them find themselves abroad using visitors' visas. And then they want to go and work there. It can't work, you see. And therefore, the reason why we are pushing for bilateral labor agreements so that Kenyans move you know, with assurance that the kind of job they're going to undertake, the minimum wage in that country, first of all, is observed, and also, if they are professionals, they are able to earn as much as in accordance with their skills.
We will pick it up from there. So as we take a quick breather, we'd want to see what you think about, would you be willing to work abroad under the government's labor export program? We've been running a poll, and that is the result as it is. A majority are saying yes. So keep participating in this particular poll. We have 281 who have said yes. We have 128 of you who are watching back at home, maybe in the office, you know, away from studio. Keep responding to this conversation as we tackle the labor market. Remember, we are not just focusing on the labor migration policy or other strategy, but also we are looking at the conditions of the Kenyan laborer. A quick breather on the shift. We'll be right back.
Mamlaka ya ukusanyaji ushuru nchini inakuletea kampeni ya umma ya G-Nice na Receipt Legit. Thibitisha risiti yako ukitumia app ya Receipt Legit, upate nafasi ya kuibuka mshindi wa zawadi kemkem kama vile shilingi milioni 1 pesa taslim, laptops, televisheni ya inchi 50, smartphones na zawadi zingine. Alhamisi tarehe 28, kutana nasi mjini Embu, Runyenjes, Siakago, Manyata, Kiritiri Market na Mbere. Kutana na msafara wetu wa Meru, maeneo ya Chuka, Nkubu na Meru Town tarehe 29 Ijumaa. Tarehe 30 siku ya Jumamosi tutaanzia Meru Town, Nchiru, Kianjai, Mutwate na Maua Town. Pata app ya Receipt Legit kwa Google Play Store au App Store kwa maelezo ya kuingia katika mashindano ya Receipt Legit. G-Nice na Receipt Legit. KRA, tulipe ushuru tujitegemee. The Kenya Medical Training College, KMTC, is delighted to announce its 93rd graduation ceremony scheduled for Thursday, December 5th, 2024 at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, Nairobi from 8 a.m. Graduates are reminded to pay a non-refundable graduation fee of 4,000 shillings using the payment details provided on the screen. Graduation gowns can be collected at the college headquarters, and the graduation booklet is available for download on the KMTC website. For more details on the graduation, training programs, intakes and application procedures, visit www.kmtc.ac.ke. KMTC, training for better health.
Say bye-bye to FOMO, the fear of missing out, by downloading the KBC Online app that gives you access to everything you love. Get the latest news, sports,
is a class
music, entertainment news, live radio, and so much more at the palm of your hands. To get the app, simply search KBC Mobile Digital App in your Google Play or App Store and download the app. Catch what you want, anytime, anywhere. Stay connected. Stay ahead with KBC Mobile Digital App.
Hey, ungependa kuwa mshindi na Lucky Box? Ni rahisi sana.
Bonyeza *463# uwe mshindi.
Filo unanikatianga, mimi ninakataa, ndio unakuja kuniwekelea hapo.
Nani?
Ndio uende pole pole. Wewe naona niambia naona kani hata wewe unauliza ama ni mama nauliza.
Mama ni nani?
Okay, bring it on. Mheshimiwa.
Ati?
When did you start to printing money and you are not at Interlude?
Kila mtu anaweza kuwa mshindi. Bonyeza *463#. Uwe mshindi.
Kuchagua box ni kuchagua chapa.
Kumbuka, kila unapocheza Lucky Box unasaidia watoto kusoma.
You are watching The Shift with Regina Manyara.
Welcome back. You are watching The Shift. Now let's look at what the statistics have to say about Kenya's labor market. Well, what you're expecting to see is actually a graphical representation of basically these are the top fastest declining jobs, as you have bank teller, postal services, cashier, ticket servicing, data entry staff, administration and executive secretaries. These are among top 10 fastest declining jobs in the country so far. This is a report by KIPRA, supported by the latest economic survey by KNBS. Material recording, accounting and bookkeeping, payroll clerk, legislators and officials, statistical, financial and insurance clerks, door-to-door sales workers, news and street vendors. Top 10 fastest declining jobs. Now, what is actually pushing the job market, or rather, where is the demand? We have AI and machine learning specialists, sustainability specialists, business intelligence analysts, information security analysts, fintech engineers. These are just among, we compare and contrast what is working, what is not working, especially in the local labor market. The next slide there is data analysts and scientists, robotics engineers, electrotechnology engineers, agricultural equipment operators, and digital transformation specialists. So compare and contrast the fastest declining and the fastest growing demand. And this brings me to the question, Bwana PS. A recent survey, that is the current unemployment rate between 1997 and 2023. Well, we see it going on an upward trajectory to around 6.7, 5.8%, looking at 2023 there. And this brings me to my next question. That particular survey by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics shows that there is a mismatch, between skills graduates possess and what the market actually requires. Do you acknowledge this gap? And if you do, then how are you addressing it? We have the statistics there to support.
I acknowledge it.
Okay.
In fact, that is the reason why the unemployment rate is extremely high.
Yeah.
And we've also interacted with entrepreneurs. They are telling us the kind of graduates we produce do not meet their expectations. So this is very true, and that's the reason why we're carrying out a skills and inventory, for the entire country, so that we get to know the skills that obtain currently, and then we look at the demands of the market, not only local market, but also the international one, and we see where there are gaps, so that we can inform curriculum, we can change curriculum. But other than that, we're also establishing sector skills committees. We have about 12 of them so far. Agriculture, industry, IT, you name it. Across the board, be it even in the maritime world. And what we are trying to do is this. We have experts in these sectors who sit in these skills committees, so that they can appraise us concerning what their sectors require. And then out of the information we get from them, we can sit with Ministry of Education, so that right from primary school, we can guide our young people on the careers that they can pursue, and eventually after graduation, they get employed. So the whole idea is to ensure employability of our young people. What has been happening is immoral. We train our young people for a pretty long period of time. They graduate and we tell them the jobs for the skills they have acquired are not available.
Then the question is, why not create then job opportunities locally? Because with the projects that we're having, especially in infrastructure, we're seeing an inflow of expatriates who are coming to work and perform duties, that our local people can. So the misnomer there. Why aren't we addressing that?
Yes, we are. By the way, it's not easy for one to get a work permit in Kenya. If the skills that this expatriate is bringing on board are available within the country, we will not allow that particular person to get a work permit.
But then do we have the capacity to do
yes.
The monitoring and evaluation, especially in the building and construction sites, as well as major road infrastructural projects? We're seeing expatriates working on
We
that?
do. We have the Labor Market Information Unit in my state department that scans the market to see the kind of skills that are required both locally and, as I said, also internationally, and then pass over this information to Kenyans. So we are doing it in actual sense. Possibly we've not been shouting from the rooftop concerning it, and that's where we've gone wrong. But we are doing it as it is now.
Should you find an investor who is not honoring the 40% local, content in as far as his labor workforce or her labor workforce is concerned, what steps have you encountered?
The law, yes, we have, and the law is very explicit and clear concerning the same. There are punitive measures that can be put in place in accordance with the legal framework that we have. So with the labor officers who go round, to analyze and supervise and ensure that we get the best out of our policies, out of our legal framework, yes, there are some who are eventually arraigned in court.
All right, so we have had the indictments.
Yes.
Would you have a number? Maybe so far?
I don't have it as it is currently, but yes, that is being done.
Okay. So the 40% local content, especially in these projects, has always been deemed as semi-skilled. Do we have, a mechanism to ensure that also our local professionals are onboarded in these particular investment projects?
Yes, we do. Let me give you an appropriate example. The low-cost housing project the government is pursuing as it is currently. We're giving opportunities to our professionals, to apply their skills, be it quantity surveyors, be it electrical engineers, be it masons, those who have done masonry, those who have done carpentry, those who have done welding. It's across the board. We're allowing our professionals to be engaged fully. That is the reason why the government has come up with these projects, other than ensuring that Kenyans also have decent housing, which is in accordance with our constitution. We're also offering employment to our professionals.
Now, the young people, or rather the youth, a majority of them are tech savvy, and they have opted to conduct business on the digital space. That is a good move. However, on the other hand, the government has instituted something like the digital service tax, eating into their would-be, earnings. What is your department doing? Is there a reprieve? Can we have what are you doing to ensure that, they thrive? We're already dealing with unemployment, yet you're taxing on the digital space.
There can be tax holidays for those who establish BPOs. Some of these things are negotiated. Government is not something that is inhuman. You just imagine that you cannot be able to negotiate with government. You can negotiate with government, so long as you are seen to be undertaking a project or a business, that in the long run is going to be beneficial to the economy. It will create employment, and later on you'll be making maximum profit so that we can tax you also and gain as much revenue from your project as we can.
So how do they?
You can negotiate with government.
How do I negotiate with government?
You can with the Kenya Revenue Authority, but other than that, for small and middle, not very large startups, even through the Department of SMEs, you can as well raise such issues. But other than that, whenever we have a finance bill, and I think that is where we got into trouble also with the Gen Zs, you can raise your voice and say this particular tax is not going to be favorable to you. Especially for those who are at the lowest level, establishing enterprises. You can raise your voice and you can be heard. In fact, the whole idea of having stakeholder forums is so that you can raise those issues so that government can be able to address them. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is government is there for the people. You can interact with government. You can raise these issues, and in the long run, they will be addressed.
In the long run?
Both in the long run, or in the long run, what I mean is eventually when the finance bill becomes an act.
All right. Now, the government has a very ambitious plan of raising 1 trillion shillings in diaspora remittance by 2027. So far, how much has been received in diaspora remittance, and how do you intend to actually?
You will be surprised. Last year, in accordance with the statistics that we have from the Central Bank of Kenya, the amount of money that Kenyans remitted back to their country, and this tells you that Kenyans are very patriotic, was $4.3 billion US, which converts to about 663 billion Kenya shillings. If you push it to 1 trillion shillings, that will be a quarter of our national budget, assuming that our national budget is about 4 trillion shillings. That is a lot of money that is being injected into the economy. And mind you, Regina, again, in accordance with the survey that has been carried out, this is only 5% of what Kenyans save out there. So if we create a conducive environment for them and push it to 10%, that will already be $10 billion US that will be plowed into the economy. Forget about foreign direct investment, much as we need it. But foreign direct investment now will come from Kenyans working in the diaspora who are plowing in resources to ensure economy expands. And that is the way to go as it is. So what we need to guarantee them, Regina, is possibly a good investment package. And we're in discussion with the Kenya Investment Authority to ensure the same, so that their return on investment is as high as it can be.
I like the return on investment, direction that you're taking, because right now diaspora remittances are used for consumption. They're sending back home, they want to build their homes and such. So how are we working at redirecting these particular monies, to support long-term development?
Now,
instead of creating this cycle of dependency, for growth.
Absolutely. So you see, that is the reason why I told you our strategy is for Kenyans to go to these international labor markets for a short period of time. Because what is critical is know-how. So that as you come back home with the investments, you're going to establish an enterprise, possibly an industry, that will not only offer employment to other Kenyans within, but in the long run, expand our economy. And let me tell you, this is how beautiful it is. The market that is available within our country is large. Why am I saying so? Because a big percentage of our population is comprised of young people. So it will remain young for a pretty long period of time to come, even in the next 100 years to come. That's the reason why most of these Western European countries and even the Asian countries are putting their focus on Africa. It's because of our population. Because simple mathematics, for any economist or any businessman, at the end of that cycle is the market. Production, but at the end is the market. If you produce and you don't have a market, it's futile for you. So imagine this Kenyan who is coming back with the trillions of money that he's been able to make out there, or maybe many Kenyans, possibly one Kenyan, it may not be.
One Kenyan.
It may not be possible.
Yes,
I agree with you.
Yes.
But as they all plow in these resources, and some of them are establishing cooperatives, by the way, they are coming together abroad and making savings. So even the trillion that I'm talking about is possible, for them to just bring it as one group that is coming to invest in a particular area. And they're investing in their fellow Kenyan in the diaspora who has the know-how in terms of producing a particular good.
The taxation policy, when it comes to monies that are sent from abroad, that's another challenge. How are we going to go about it? Because there's a field that I am earning and I'm sending and still getting taxed.
It's both sides, by the way. It's not only in Kenya, but also abroad, because we have sat with Kenyans in the diaspora and they've told us the kind of challenges that they are facing in sending money back home.
Yes.
From the financial institutions where they are working, in the countries where they are working. And indeed, that was one of the issues that I tackled recently in the European Migration Network. They normally have an annual meeting. By God's grace, they invited me as one of the guests and panelists, and therefore I was able to speak about this issue in a very comprehensive and, confident way, that there is need for them to relook at it, you see, because they are also in need of labor, owing to the fact that they have an aging population.
Okay.
So on that side, it's wanting, and therefore it has to be addressed. But in Kenya, I totally agree with you, we may need to relook at our tax policy. But what I'm trying to tell you, Regina, is our tax policy is not cast on stone. It's a question of people sitting and negotiating and discussing. It's not cast on stone at all. We cannot make the mistake that we made that led to the Gen Z demonstrations.
I hope we don't.
Well, no, we will not. I can assure you with full confidence.
I hope we don't.
We had a stakeholder forum for my sector, the social sector, on Friday last week, and we had a number of Kenyans come to KICC, to listen to our projections going forward, the programs that we have in place. They gave us some very important and critical information that was missing out, that we're going to incorporate now going forward to ensure we succeed in our projects.
The stakeholder engagements. Now, just last week, we saw that academic staff in public universities actually went back last weekend. And, after 1 month, nearly 1 month of industrial action. Before that, we had doctors. Before that, we had clinical officers out on the streets. Why are public workers, dissatisfied?
They are dissatisfied because of their pay package, and they have been raising this repeatedly. But most importantly, it's because we are negotiating their collective bargaining agreements towards the end, the tail end of these cycles, which is wrong. Ideally, we should negotiate the CBAs right from the word go. I have given an undertaking, and I have told university lecturers that next year, for the 2025-2029 cycle, we will begin negotiating on it in January, so that we can first of all look at our economy, the way it is performing, where it is wanting, where we are able to increase their allowances or not, whether it is possible to increase their salaries or not. We negotiate early enough because they are Kenyans. They live here. They know the kind of challenges that we face. But let me tell you, Regina, what we have done, because what is obtaining in our country currently used to obtain in South Africa, if you remember, about 25 years ago. But they came up with a structure.
I was here calculating if I was born then, but yeah, I was alive.
You're alive, thank God. They came up with a structure that has brought about industrial peace. And that is what we have emulated. Okay. The National Labour Board and the wages councils for the various sectors.
But now these collective bargaining agreements, they are made under different dispensations. These entities sit down, have a CBA, we change in regime. Government changes, then seemingly abandons the CBA. It starts over again. Is it time that we actually address this to completion?
And that is the reason why I'm telling you, the only solution is to put in place structures that can be able to address such, cycles that take place from one administration to another. Because, you see, if you are to rely upon the political establishment, they would want to be popular with the people. So before elections, there will be a CBA that has been negotiated that cannot be implemented, by the next administration that takes over the reins of power. And therefore, the solution is the structures that I'm talking about. Have wages councils. Wages councils for sectors, each sector. If it be the security sector, you have experts in that particular area that negotiate the salaries for watchmen and other security officers. Be it agriculture, for multinational corporations. Be it the public service, they can be negotiated by a council.
But then wouldn't that, Bwana PS, sorry for interjecting there, but wouldn't that be also taking away the mandate of the SRC?
Not necessarily. We're working with the SRC because the SRC only gives us the ceiling. SRC works with Ministry of Finance, the National Treasury, to give the ceiling as it's supposed to be. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty, the negotiations, they can take place at the Wages Council's level. And as I was telling you, Regina, it has worked in South Africa. The kind of unrest that we had there about 25, 30 years ago does not obtain currently.
But at what cost? Isn't this now going to also hurt the taxpayer in expanding the wage bill that is already running away, so to speak?
No. So the wages councils look at what obtains in the economy. If the economy cannot sustain a pay rise, they will not advise so. And you see, they're established in accordance with the law. So we're not twisting the political establishment as it is now. The structures are being followed to the letter in accordance with the legal framework that is in place.
Wage councils structures to actually manage the wages of various sectors. Is this the way to go? We'll be answering further this issue as we come back. Remember, you're watching The Shift. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. We take that breather once again, but we'll be right back.
Visa hii ishafika na ni kubwa kubwa. Kweli? Hii Kristi ni bomba na Blue Santa kupitia star 570 hash option 1. Rudia. Star 570 hash option 1. Iko PlayStation 5 na 55 inch TV na iko 500,000 Kenyan shillings.
Nambuzi moja?
Nambuzi. 1 million Kenyan shillings na Samsung S24 Ultra.
Nambuzi moja?
Iko 2 million Kenyan shillings na iPhone 16 Pro Max.
Nambuzi mbili.
Blue Santa amekuja na zawadi kibao. Nani kubwa hapa kuna ndogo ndogo. Hapa Christmas ni bomba.
Kinyanjui kalia, mbona unakimbia? Kwani umeona Costa?
Hiyo Costa nini ndio mtaiona eh? I hope you are ready for the exams.
Mi niko Lendi, tell him to bring it on.
Teacher, Mr. Macfridge, I am on my bended knees and I am very sorry. I acknowledge that you are the teacher and I am the student. I am sorry.
Viva!
Kinyanjui, you have a lot of explaining to do. Can you come back here?
Mr. Teacher, I am learning somewhere very, very important. I will see you later.
And our guest tonight is none other than Principal Secretary, Labour and Skills Development at PS Shadrack Mwadime. The conversation is about the labour market. The statistics are there. We're still grappling with unemployment, and government has set forth some interventions, one of which being the labour migration strategy. Is it working? So let's have a listen into what Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua of Labour and Social Protection had to say about this particular strategy.
Country right now, we have more people who are trained and qualified than the available jobs. We don't have a shortage of skills in Kenya. We have more doctors than we can absorb. That means people going overseas does not affect our economic growth at all. Actually, it will help because they'll come back with brain gain. They'll come back with new knowledge of how things are done and get Kenya to be a first world country. So don't fear. There are so many teachers that are unemployed. Mwalimu akae nyumbani hapa, angoje Kenya ifikie hiyo economy in 5 years, ama ende ngambo, afanye kazi, akuje hapa nyumbani, ikiwa Kenya imefikia hapo, si ndio? Because we have enough labor as it is. We churn out more people in this continent than any other, in this country than any other person in this continent. So we're doing very well.
Having heard what the Cabinet Secretary has said, would you as a Kenyan be willing to onboard into this particular program? We are sampling your feedback. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. Related to that, PS, there's a question, the question that has been raised by one of our viewers on our social media platforms. They're asking, I qualify, they have the requisite qualifications in terms of academics, even the language. But then who is footing the travel cost abroad?
Okay,
is the government subsidizing?
It's dependent on the market. It's purely dependent on the market. There are some markets that are purely free in the sense that it's the employer who foots the cost in terms of transport, in terms of medical. Some of them even pay for passports. You know, the entire cost is catered for. But there are some other markets that insist you have to take yourself there You have to present yourself to the employer.
Okay.
And therefore, there's a cost.
So it's varying. So off cuff, or rather top of mind, what are these markets that are willing, you know, to have a pro quo, or rather facilitate these candidates seeking jobs there?
Yeah, like, for example, Israel insists that you have to take yourself there. Most of these former Eastern European countries also do the same, yeah, be it Poland, Serbia, and the like. Even Russia, we are pursuing negotiations with them. But even for that country, it's the same. But the others, like in Germany, there are some employers who will actually foot the entire bill. I'm saying there are some employers because it's dependent again, you know. But I want to assure Kenyans that these are very high-paying jobs. So even if you're incurring some costs, you know, you can rest assured that you'll recover the same within a month or two. And we have tried to negotiate with the Youth Enterprise Fund to see whether they can come up with a product, you know, for labor migrants. They have accepted, they have set aside a lot of money concerning the same. I think in accordance with the information I received recently, I think about 300 million or so. We're also in discussions with financial institutions, but they have to charge a very low interest. That's the reason why we are negotiating with them. So our object as government is to ensure that it is free. And therefore, we'll pursue those markets that we know Kenyans will not incur any cost. That's the reason why we have the global labor strategy. You know, the global labor strategy is about identifying markets that are beneficial to Kenyans.
Now, there was talk. Actually, there's also a response to that CBA. Maybe I can read it there. This comes from one of our viewers, Silas Otieno, who says, actually, he goes further to quote the president and says, presidents should stop over-promising unions. There is on the screen. Retired presidents set CBAs just after their retirement, and hence bringing the burden to new presidents. Maybe that's what you're saying, that we need to have structures when it comes to CBAs.
Absolutely.
Now, some months back, there was talk of abolishing permanent and pensionable jobs in the public service and move to a more contractual basis. Is this still on the table?
No, it's not government policy. I can assure you. That was somebody's, you know, view.
Okay, thank you for
therefore,
that.
there are ideas that are being shared left, right, and center to see how we can reduce the wage bill.
Now, it seems that a majority of those who are in government, you know, are the ones are disgruntled. And are dissatisfied, maybe because of the statutory deductions and such. What are you doing to actually make public service attractive? Because the payslip is not paying for the sleep, so to speak.
No, I can assure you, Regina, and I'm saying this with a lot of honesty because I've also been in government for a while. You know, the kind of pay packet that we have currently in comparison to what you used to obtain before is much, much better. I know the economic situation is equally not so good, and therefore Kenyans are feeling it as it is. But government has really tried in terms of the allowances that public servants need to get, be it doctors, the special allowances and what have you. We've gone out of our way to guarantee, you know, Kenyan public servants that which they require in order to perform well. It may not be the best, but what I'm trying to say is there has been an attempt to make it better.
Now, there's been a proposed minimum wage of around 30,000 shillings for security guards. Where are we with that particular proposal?
That was a proposal that came up by the private security authority, regulatory authority that has been established. But there were no consultations. The stakeholder forums were not, you know, held, and that is in accordance with the Constitution. And that's the reason why the matter went to court.
Yeah. Is government providing a safety net, you know, for those who, for one reason or another, get actually axed, or rather as companies are downsizing? Because we've seen a majority that actually want to downsize, you know, looking at the high cost of doing business. Is there a safety net?
Yes, in the sense that we have the Youth Enterprise Fund, we have the Women Development Fund, and there are quite a number of financial institutions also that are giving out loans. We also have the Hustler Fund, you know, working with the World Bank in terms of the resources that they are giving us. What we need to do is to build the capacity of these Kenyans in terms of running enterprises.
Now, you're pushing Kenyans, or rather to embrace entrepreneurship. But then government has increased the pay as you earn, but the formal, those who are in formal employment is shrinking. How will it then be able to marry the gaps that are likely to occur?
Yeah, but we haven't said we're offloading Kenyans, by the way. We haven't said we're offloading those who are in the public service. These are proposals, as I said.
Yeah.
We had the structural adjustment programs in the 80s, and a number of Kenyans were offloaded. An analysis was carried out later on, and it was found to have been wanting, because the spending power that Kenyans had at that particular time shrinked. And therefore, if you don't have people spending, how are they going to buy goods and services? What are you producing those goods and services for? And therefore, we have to be careful concerning the same. But what I'm making reference to is the informal sector.
Yes.
That has about 19 million Kenyans. How can we build their capacity? How can we ensure that they are financially literate, to know how to balance their books, to run their books of accounts, and therefore to grow their businesses?
How also are you working at also formalizing them so that you can tap?
Yes, that's the other issue. We're trying to come up with a strategy, a policy actually, on how we can encourage this informal sector to migrate to formal sector.
Now, as we come to a close, we are looking at the upcoming celebrations in December, and I know they are geared around just looking at what the labor market amid the high rate of unemployment. Is there hope that maybe we will have the minimum wage increased from the current, is it 15,000 or 17,000?
The minimum wage was increased by 6% during the last celebrations that we had.
Yeah.
So the minimum wage currently, particularly in Nairobi and the other cities that obtain, is about 16,700. For casual work, it's about 770,000 per day.
Is there hope to have this increased in the next celebrations?
Yes, as the economy improves, as the economy performs well. Indeed, that is the reason why our focus in this year's celebration is on job creation, labor migration, and what have you. We are putting our focus into ensuring that as many Kenyans as possible find themselves, employed, both in the informal and formal sector. Yeah.
One word as we actually bring the shift to a close. Are we ready to embrace remote working?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Indeed, we are trying to come up with a BPO policy, in order to ensure as many Kenyans as possible benefit from AI. You are working in Nairobi with your computer, with your laptop, but you can as well be able to earn a living. And AI, in the sense that there are some jobs that will obviously be offloaded, what Kenyans are doing because of introduction of AI, but AI can also be used to our advantage, because if you're maximizing on profits, you can as well come up with different products, So the packaging, the transportation, and what have you, you can still be able to gain out of AI, because that's the way the world is moving as
Indeed.
It is currently.
On that note, that brings a cup to matters shift tonight. We've been speaking to none other than Principal Secretary, Labour and Skills Development, Shadrack Mwadime there. And a call to action is that you on board on the labor export strategy there. And in the long run is meant to cure unemployment. And maybe by 2027, we'll have Diaspora remittance actually hit the 1 trillion shillings mark. I hand over to my colleagues on the other side of the studio. That is Chuma, Odim and Tomboya to take you through the rest of the programming, as well as sports and business coming up with Weri Monjenga and Bernard Okumo.